Well, there is no kind of harmonies like family harmonies, and Shari Cain is the mother of Cain, the band. We love them. It's so great to have you on,
Thank
Shari.
you so much. It's really, truly a privilege to get to do this.
Oh, thank you so much. I was, I'm just so taken by them from everything, from their look, their sound, their energy, like all of the things that just create um, why we love music, the whole thing about it. So I know you have to be just so amazingly proud right now of all the great things that have come their way this past year or
I
so.
really am. And I want to preface, I'll probably try to preface every time I answer with, we're just so thankful. We're so grateful. We give all the glory to God because we are so proud. And I do feel like I brag a lot because I'm
There's no way around it. It just feels that way.
so
Yeah.
when you're saying their look and their sound, I'm like, yes, yes, because I'm just
You're
their
like, I
biggest
agree.
cheerleader. Yeah. So no, but thank you. Yes, we are so very proud, and it has been a long journey. A lot of people just learned of the kids, is what I call them, of Cain, but those that don't know the backstory of how they've grown up in music their whole lives. But as far as the music industry, they went the route of country first, and that was, I think, 7 years, close to seven. Um,
7 years that they were actually in country music trying to make it all
yes.
happen. Wow.
So,
That's one of the things I love about this podcast is nobody tells the story better than a mama, in my opinion.
right.
And so to go straight to the source of kind of the journey that they have been on from your perspective is such a treat for us to get to do today. Let's go way back though. They grew up in the church, right? You and your
Yes.
husband have both worked in ministry your entire careers,
Yes.
right?
Well, I will say when the babies, when they were all born, and they were all born very close in age. When Taylor was 5 months old, I was pregnant with Madison, and when Madison was 7 months old, I was pregnant with Logan. So we had three in 3 years. Yeah,
Whoa.
it was a
Wow.
lot. Most people have a Taylor and a Logan, and we squeeze a Madison in. So, but I said all that to say when they were all born, my husband was an engineer. He was working at Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, and I was a dental hygienist and was working full time in that until I got pregnant with Taylor, and then I stayed home and said I'll take a little break and then I'll go back, and then I just kept having babies and never went back. But when Logan was I wish I could remember exactly how old. We went full time ministry, so it was a big leap for our whole family. But yeah, went he was senior pastor, and many years later, I began to work with the youth. But I was just a stay at home mom, and he also traveled and sang. A lot of people don't know that my husband was a full time pastor, but he was traveling and singing all over the southeast. So they kind of got a little taste of tour life when they were babies, but they don't remember a lot of that. But when they got a little bit older, we settled down and let them kind of start their lives, if you will, grounded and home more. So yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah.
But they were around music from a very young age,
Oh
right?
yes, from the very beginning. But like I said, my husband is very musically talented, plays the guitar, plays the piano, he has
Right.
sang since he was a little boy. So they grew up around that. And then in church, worship team practices, just in church 3 times a week. And so that was kind of all they knew. And we did homeschool
Right.
them, and we only listened to Christian music when they were growing up. So they just got a lot of that. Music was a
Oh,
big
wow.
part of their lives when they were young, and ours as well. So it's kind of neat
Yeah.
because they've always grown up. We've always liked the same music. That
Yeah, yeah. So was the country thing a little bit of a surprise to you when that was the original type of music that they pursued?
well, I'll tell you how that happened. If you fast forward, they even led worship in the youth praise band for years at our church, and
Hmm.
would do summer camps and things. But when they went off to college, they won a contest to open for Dave Barnes, and it was just the big deal. Everybody in campus was voting for them, and they won, and they got to open for him in Birmingham. And my dad, who had been in the publishing business in Nashville and country music, was there. And he approached them and said, "Have y'all thought about doing music? Would you like to do music?" And they were like, "Yeah, yes."
Sure.
And but his open doors were really primarily in country music. So that's kind of just where it led. So it wasn't totally surprising. They were just learning how to write music in college. And so they just sort of started out with the doors that opened to them, and that's what it was.
That's
Um,
what it was. What are some of the opportunities that they had were they, what was their name in country music? Was it
oh,
also
let's
just
see.
Cain?
They started out, there were so many, they wanted to be Kane from the beginning, and there were issues early on. I believe they were worried about some copyright infringements or some other names that were out there and things.
Yeah.
So I believe they started out as Kane's Trio, and then the Canes, and then Kane. So,
Okay. Okay. So
uh,
it was an evolution to get
yes.
there.
But they ended up getting to tour all over Europe. They got to play some really amazing venues. They got to do a lot in Nashville on Broadway, but it was also tough because they would do just rent a van, drive all night, play in
Hmm.
bars, and just
Hmm.
so they
Well, and as I talk to you today, I'm waiting on the text for my son that went from the bar in Starkville, Mississippi, to the bar in Fayetteville, Arkansas, to make sure they got there okay. So that's kind of
right.
where we are,
Yes,
is where you
yes,
were with
yes,
them, probably around the same age, right? College
yes,
age. Just
yes.
yeah.
So
So very
but
similar.
it was interesting because, you know, we've heard a few stories since where Logan said there were a few times that I thought I was going to have to come down off of the stage because of the hecklers
Oh
and the with the
yeah.
girls,
Oh
you
yeah.
know.
Oh,
And
it's a
so,
thing. Yeah.
yeah. So, so we were actually, I think the straw that broke the camel's back for them, if you will, because they would go to meetings and they would have yeses and we love this, and they would have some success, some level of success,
Hmm.
and they had some music on secondary radio stations. Learning it's very hard to break into music in general, but country music especially,
Yeah.
But they went to a meeting, and they I don't even remember who the meeting was with, but they played a song for them, and they were like, "We want something like this." And they just, all three, without saying anything to each other, thought, that's just never going to be us. Like, we're not going to write that stuff. That's not what we're going to sing about. And we're just, what are we doing, So that's when
Yeah.
they just said, we're done. Like, we've given it a shot. We've had some level of success, but this is not, they were still struggling to pay the rent, and just,
Right. Right.
a lot of people don't know it's so expensive to live in Nashville. They were all still living together, trying to pay rent, and so when
Yeah.
they laid that down, I think they felt like they failed. They felt disappointed, but I think there was a little bit of relief of just like the burden of trying to make it, if you will,
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
gone, and they were, and they'll tell in their testimony. A lot of people have heard them share that they said, we never dreamed. We grew up in church, and we never dreamed that 5 to 7 years later we would find ourselves out of church, because they'd been going every weekend to play and play and play, and then they were just
Right.
like, what,
Right.
where are we, what are we doing, so they just
Yeah.
decided, we're
Yeah.
just gonna put this down, we're gonna go find a church, get involved, and just see what God has for us,
See what's
yeah.
next. Was that difficult for a family, for you as mom, to kind of walk them through the disappointments of 7 years of a lot of effort and thinking that this was their future and then deciding, okay, what's
Yeah.
next?
Yes, yes, and no. In some ways, it felt like an answer to prayer for me, if I'm being honest, and my husband, because we just felt like they kept hitting a brick wall, and they kept being almost. And so
Right. Yep.
almost it almost felt like, okay, this this is the time, this needs to end. And
Yeah.
either God will open another door. We always felt like they would do something in music. We didn't know if it would
Mm-hmm.
be with a label and to the degree it has become, but we felt like
Right.
they'll probably get involved in a church and help with worship, and we were thrilled with that. And we were a little bit
Yeah.
relieved that we weren't checking our phones, in the middle of the night to see if they made it to the next spot and all of that. So, but it was tough. It is tough when your kids are
Mm.
disappointed and
In the meantime, before what we now know as Cain evolved and became the success started rolling in, what did they do? Did they have interesting jobs in between? Did they go back to really just normal life?
well, I feel like there was not a very long time between, which is probably good. Logan was, a lot of people don't know this as well. He cheered in college at Troy. He actually, it was really funny because he had never done anything like that, but the girls had cheered and done competition cheerleading, and he had seen that and grown up around that. But I don't know. I think he posted a video one day of doing a backflip, and they contacted him at Troy and said, "Will you consider cheering?" And he was like, "I don't know." And they said, "You can get a scholarship," and he was like, "Okay, sign me up."
And you were like, yes, let's say
Yes,
yes to
yes.
that one.
So he had cheered at Troy, and he was doing that on the side in between to kind of help make money. He was
Hmm.
coaching and helping teach other young girls how to stunt and getting them connected with other colleges and things of that nature. So he was doing that. Madison had worked in a corporate world. She had interned and worked there for a little while, but I'm trying to remember the timeline. She got married, and so I think that was all going on during all this. She got married.
Okay,
Her
yeah.
husband was an engineer, so I think they were okay. It was just, I can't remember exactly what Taylor fell back on, but it was a short time because when they got in church, I guess it wasn't long. I don't really know how, but they said, we're not going to go in and try to do anything music. But someone asked them and they said, well, yes. And so they started leading worship at church. And the man that is now their manager was in the attending church there. And so,
Just in the
yes.
congregation.
And so he approached
Hmm.
them and was like, have y'all thought about doing music? uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so, but
Oh my goodness. And now they were one of the most played artists in Christian music this past
I
year.
mean,
So many accolades. Oh my goodness. It's just really been fun to watch their success, and knowing more about their story just helps us to root them on even
thank
harder. They're going to be
you.
hosting the KLOVE Awards.
Yes, thank you. So it has been, I still tear up when we have big moments and opportunities that happen that you just
Yeah.
think we never dreamed of this. And I think they may post about this at some point, but Taylor made a vision board where she had cut out pictures and words and prayers and things that she had prayed over time. And I think almost everything on there but one thing has happened since then. Even the word
Oh.
Sony is on there, and that's the label that they ended up going with. So that was kind of neat. But
Yeah, that's really
yeah,
neat. That's really neat. Oh my goodness. Tell me a little bit more about their personalities as kids, like raising them, and I want to get into how you help to nurture and foster this unusually close relationship between them as siblings.
um, okay, their personalities as kids. Taylor was the firstborn, and she did have that more typical mothering firstborn nature tendency. Yes,
Nurturing.
very nurturing,
Uh-huh.
very, and almost, I think sometimes she feels bad about that to this day, but she shouldn't because she helped save Madison and Logan's life a lot, I'm sure. When they would try to go out, they were a little more of the daredevil type. And Taylor would be the one that's like, no, you can't do that. You can't go down that hill on that scooter. I'm,
So you were
yeah,
probably thankful to have
yes,
her
yes.
with
But
three kids under three.
they all had their own little personalities. She was very smart at a very young age. She was really into reading and books and So she had a lot of that going on and a lot of music. I can remember when she was very young, 2 or 3 years old, she would sit at the piano and pick out. Charlie would play something, my husband, her dad would play something, and then she would try to mimic that. So from a young age,
Oh, wow.
one of her college professors pulled us aside and said, "I don't know if you know this, but we believe that Taylor has perfect pitch." So she's always had that thing, you know. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Madison, it's just neat to see where they've how they've evolved, because Madison, when she was little, she always had our video camera, and she was always going around making videos, and she was always the giggly one. And you mentioned hosting the KLOVE Awards. We're gonna see how that all plays out. I'm wondering if they're gonna have to edit a lot because she doesn't have a filter, which we think is hilarious, but we'll see how that goes on TV. But and Logan, believe it or not, was very shy. Most people just can't believe
Ah.
that, because if you see him now, he carries a lot of their show. He does a lot of the talking and narrating. And
Mhm.
so I think until he was about 8, 9, 10 years old, he was kind of shy and quiet. And then he just blossomed. But they're all, I mentioned that about Madison with the video camera, because before, that was one thing that you asked about that I'd forgotten, is she edited videos for weddings. So she was a videographer for
Oh,
weddings.
yeah.
So she was doing some of that to make
Okay.
extra money. Um,
Yeah.
and Logan was, we think he has a photographic memory. There may be another name for it. It's like he can watch a movie and then he can come out and quote most of the movie. I mean, he just has this great memory. So they just all had their neat little things about them. And it's kind of interesting, the dynamic now between them, because we still see those personalities and we still see the things that they blossomed with when they were young
Yeah.
coming into play now as they're older. But it's funny because,
Just on a bigger stage, right?
yes. And Madison was always the more laid back, easygoing peacemaker, and that's still the case. We have Taylor, the more that she wants to nurture and mother, and then Logan, the baby, if you will, is like, no, no, don't do that. And Madison's like, hey guys. so, so they have some of that, and it's not always the case, but that's just a little example of their
Yeah,
personalities.
it's been fun to hear them talk about, sharing a room when they were little, and
Yes.
then sharing an apartment in college, and just kind of really not ever seeing life without the others, greatly involved in each other's
Yes, and
lives.
you had asked about how we nurtured that. I mean, obviously they did spend a lot of time together because they shared a room together, like you said, when we had a little 2 bedroom house to start with, and they were all in a room. We had one of those bunk beds where it was a full size bottom and a single top, and so Logan was on the top bunk, the girls shared the bottom until we were able to build our home and get them their rooms. But they
Yeah.
spent a lot of time together. We homeschooled, so they were home together. And because they were so close in age, they had pretty much the same friend group. So as they got older, they did have other friends that, I'm not saying they all only had the same 3 friends or whatever, but they did
Right.
share youth group friends, just a lot of similar friends. And so we always wanted our house to be the place where everybody wanted to come. So we always
Right.
encouraged that, and I think that helped a little bit with them being close, and that they all had the same friends, and we always had people over at our house. But so part of that nurturing that close sibling, we prayed a lot. My husband and I prayed a lot. I read a lot of books just about all of that, how to just motherhood and how to raise kids with different personalities, strong willed versus not, and that sort of thing. But we also, I mean, we really stress church. Um, Obviously, we were pastors, and so that was important to us, but we just felt like we don't want to we know that one day we want them to be involved in church. and we're going to raise them to see that that's really important to us. So they played travel ball. They had dances and proms and things, but we always just said that's fine, but you're going to be at church. So if there was a
Yeah.
conflict, church had to win out. So we just made that a priority for them. And then when we were at home, we just had a lot of devotionals and Bible time. And so we really stressed a lot about the scriptures and that sort of thing. But we also just, um, we made them work it out. We didn't let them,
Mm.
and everybody has a different approach to how they parent, but we just would not let them duke it out and sort it out on their own until they were old enough. When they were younger, we had family talks and worked through it,
Yeah.
till it was resolved.
Right. Yeah. What have been some of the fun moments and opportunities that you've gotten to experience or maybe come along on with them as they've been given these opportunities? Do you and your husband go to a lot of shows?
It feels like a lot to us. It may not be a lot to some people. We can't hang with the tour life.
I
Have you done
know, I
that?
know.
Have you done bus
Oh yeah,
life?
yeah. Yeah, well, not on the bus, but my husband and I actually have an RV
Okay.
that we will take and go to try to, our real goal is A, supporting our kids, but B, seeing other parts of the country and trying to, enjoy all of that, but on our own timing and schedule. Because, yeah, bus life is not the fun, glamorous thing that
Wow.
people have in their
I
head.
think a lot of people need to see that side of it. So we've on each tour, we didn't get to go out on the Hits Deep tour with them, but I think every other tour we've been able to go out at least one weekend and be on the bus, and which is really fun because you're all there together, but also you don't
Yeah.
sleep a lot, and it's like a little rolling petri dish. So if anybody gets sick, everybody gets sick, So,
So true. That's
but
so
as far
true.
as highlights, I mean, I think this past fall we got to see them in an arena, a packed arena with Casting Crowns, and just the full
Uh,
show, and it was just kind of mind blowing. Actually, it was really
yeah.
our first time to see the big show. But then also now that they're headlining and to see what they've done with that and how they've created something kind of new and different with their headline tour, they're getting a lot of great reviews on that, and so that's been really special. But the Grand Ole Opry was kind of probably one night that I'll never forget when they debuted there. I really thought they might be intimidated by the crowd, and I didn't know how they would approach their music, but they didn't shy away at all. And they just came out and did their songs, and people responded really well. So that was pretty cool. Um,
Yeah, there's not much that beats that Grand Ole Opry debut for sure.
right.
That's so special.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. So, what about I saw some posts the other day where they had the babies strapped on the stage doing the sound check. How sweet is that for you to see your children with their children just living life and doing the thing with the kids?
It's pretty amazing. We actually didn't know if we were going to have grandkids because, well, the girls, early on, we have two girls and a boy. Those that know Cain know that, but Logan's wife, Emily.
Mhm.
So when I say the girls, I'm referring to Taylor and Madison specifically.
Right.
When they were in country music, everyone sort of kept saying, "Oh, don't get pregnant, don't have babies, don't get pregnant." It was just sort of an understood thing, like that would mess up any chance you have. So just don't do that right now,
Yeah.
So they were just constantly in that sort of mindset. And then when you switch over to Christian music, you sort of feel like, oh gosh, well, when is a good time? Or how can we make this work? And Taylor's
Mhm.
husband plays baseball. He's a pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals, and he's
We are huge Cardinal
oh
fans, so
yay!
that's so fun. We were excited to see
Oh
that they went to St.
yes.
Louis. So yeah, my husband grew up in the area,
Oh how
and so
neat.
he has raised our boys. And we're actually get my son Connor has a show in St. Louis in 2 weeks, and so we're going up for the 3 game series and getting to see Connor and the whole thing.
Yay!
So we're so
Oh,
excited.
cool. So, okay. Well,
Yeah.
So it's just we just didn't know how they were going to be able to make all of that work with schedules and
Hmm.
touring, and but also, that clock is ticking, and they're thinking about, how can we plan this and do this, and sometimes you plan and it doesn't work out the way you plan. So when Logan and Emily told us first, and we were really kind of shocked because we didn't know that anybody was even thinking about that yet. So we
Right,
were
right.
pleasantly surprised, but we never pushed, or, I know some parents were just like, "When are we getting a baby? We want a baby." But we just didn't say anything. So we were really excited, but we were fairly uh, gobsmacked, dumbfounded when Madison was pregnant, and then 3 weeks later, Taylor was pregnant. And so,
So was everybody pregnant at the same
yes.
time
So,
for the with the first
yes.
baby?
So, Emily, Logan's wife, well, they gave birth to River in March, and Madison was next. She had Callaway in August, and 3 weeks later, also in August, Taylor gave birth to her little girl Stevie. So they're all,
So they kind of went backwards to the baby,
yes,
to the middle, to the
yes,
firstborn, right? Of
exactly,
having the
yes.
babies. Oh, that's
So,
the neatest
but
story.
it's so
Oh
neat
my
that they
goodness.
get to do all this on the road. It's also, I mean, I'm pretty amazed because it's fairly challenging to live on the road and then take babies with you on the bus, and
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
they're doing great, and they love it, and they're a
Yeah.
little part of the show each night, and so it's pretty
Oh,
neat.
did they bring them out on
They do,
stage, the
yes.
babies?
So
Oh,
there's
that's
been a
so
few
fun.
nights,
People love that inside
yeah,
glimpse.
there's been a couple of nights where it didn't work out for them to come out on stage. If somebody's having a rough night, but yeah, for the most part, they do come out, so that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Okay, tell me about this fashion sense. Have they always kind of been cutting edge in that? Like even in high school, did they want to wear like the cool trendy stuff, or did you influence their style at all?
Um, you know, I don't know that I could say that I did. I would say Taylor probably was the most into style in high school and college. And Madison some too, but Logan was like, just the athlete, but kind of how this happened is they knew that they needed to have a look with three of them on stage that would kind of blend well together. And they couldn't decide a trend or one style, so they just decided, well, why don't we just everybody do your own style, but let's do a color. And that's where it started, where they all would have a matching color. And then Taylor said, Logan, I'll just shop for you. That's how it
Perfect.
started, and but now it is, they don't really have a stylist. Every now and then for special occasions they will, but they do their own thing. And so
And they like that part of it.
they do really enjoy it. And every now and then it doesn't work, and sometimes they have to just order a lot of things and then try and see what works and then return what doesn't, kind of
Right.
thing. But they do have a lot of fun with it. And um, they said, one of them said something the other day about, I don't know how long it'll be this way or if we'll do something different. And I was like, oh, you can never do something different. This is too great. You got to stick with the color thing for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of just become part of, like if you know or you see that they're going to be appearing somewhere or in something, it's like, oh, I just want to see what are they
Oh, that's
wearing,
neat. They would love that. They would love that.
Yeah. So that's kind of the more trivial side of it. But on the other side, tell me about just what it is like for you to see how the Lord is using them in such a vast way to people, to, heal hearts, to bring joy, to all the things that just really matter in life.
Well, there's been a lot of happy tears, I will say. So many amazing stories, more than they can even share and convey. I wish they could just put it all out there all the time, but they've had phone calls even from radio people, and just testimonies of how this has touched someone's life or inspired them. brought them back to the Lord. We just get amazing testimonies, and it really does affirm a lot in me as well, that when they were little, we really just had Christian music going all the time. And most of the people that contact them hear them on Christian radio, or they're maybe through streaming, on the different streaming. Um,
Right.
but it just, I, I don't know, it just is the biggest blessing. It's the biggest answer to prayer. It's what I think it's what every mother would want for their kids, to just feel like your kids are impacting the lives of other people. We had a friend of ours that called us, an acquaintance friend. We hadn't talked in a long time, but she
Mm-hmm.
called. So I just have to tell you this story. She said, I was riding down the road and the song The Commission came on, which is the song that they sing about, as if Jesus were saying, go tell the world about me. And she said, I was just
Yeah.
so touched and moved by that song. And I immediately remembered, one of her son's coaches is in the hospital, had been diagnosed with cancer. It was a pretty grim prognosis. And she said, I just immediately felt like I've got to go talk to him. So she went to the hospital and said, I heard this song, um, and I just want to know, do you know about Jesus? And he said, no. And she said, do you want to know Jesus? And he said, yes. And she said, can I pray with you? So this all happened in just a matter of like hearing it on the radio, going straight to the hospital, praying with this man. When he got
Wow.
out of the hospital, he was baptized in his church. And so we just hear stories like that a lot. And it just makes me cry every time because,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you fully express the gratitude that you feel, not only that people's lives have been impacted, but that my kids are impacted and are getting to do it.
Right. Or that God is using your kids as the vessel to get his
Right,
message
right.
across. Like that's what's so amazing.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't go unnoticed by us or unappreciated. Or I
Right.
know that sometimes people can just get so busy in the business and the industry, and with how busy life can be. But I really feel like
Yeah.
we always talk about that, and they really do too, how they don't ever want to take for granted any of that. And they
Right.
feel the
Right.
weightiness of it too. When they do their shows, they want people to experience God's presence. They also want people to experience fun, because they feel like sometimes Christians get a bad rap for being like, you heard the saying that Sunday morning is the most boring hour on the planet, and they're like, why? No, it should not be that way. We want people to
Yeah.
see that Christians can have fun, but they also feel, the weight of when they write a song, like the message behind it and how it will impact people. And because, and I'm sure you know this with your son, you write 50 songs to find 10 that are,
Yeah, yeah,
or
maybe.
right, right,
Yeah, maybe 10. Yeah, you'd be lucky
right.
probably to get those. What was it like watching the song Rise Up, which is their highest listened to stream song? Watch that one just kind of climb the charts and just grow bigger and bigger and bigger. Did you know
Well,
when you heard it, you're like, this is the
Well,
one?
it's amazing, because when we heard that they had written quite a few, and everybody kept saying, "No, I don't think this is it. I don't think this is it." And then when Rise Up came along, they were like, "Oh, there's something special about this." And of course, we felt that too. But I don't know if you know the story. So Rise Up happened right at the beginning, when the kids should have been going out for their first time to do radio tour, to meet radio people and to introduce the song. COVID pandemic shut down. They didn't
Mm,
get to
yeah.
go. So they did a few online Zoom calls and met some radio people
Hmm.
that way. But none of the radio people knew the kids, had ever met them, had ever heard of them. And so it took a long time that for that song, it has to play for a little while before it even gets on the chart.
Yeah.
And then it
Yeah.
takes a while. So I think it ended up being 7 or 8 months before it went number one. But so we were all bawling. uh, I think the kids have a post, if you go back far enough, where they all got the call. They were not together, but they all got the call that it had gone number one, and they're all just crying, and we were crying because we didn't know if it would how it could even make it, knowing that with the pandemic and everything was just off
Yeah.
kilter.
Everybody had to work a little harder
Yes,
for everything to happen. So that probably made the reward
yes,
even sweeter.
yes. So
Yeah.
so it really was a special moment for them and for us.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but your town is a pretty small town in Alabama, right?
Yes, I'm not sure what we're at now. Somewhere around maybe 15,000, sixteen
Oh, okay.
thousand.
Yeah, that's pretty small. What is it like in the community for, I mean, can you go to the grocery store without somebody wanting to stop and talk about the kids? Or, I mean, I'm going to guess that they're a pretty big deal in that small town in
Yes,
Alabama.
we
Is it
do.
Hartselle?
It is Hartselle, and
Okay.
we do most every time we go out, we run into people that and a lot of people just knew them growing up and knew my husband is from here, grew up here, and I've been here for many years, so we just know a lot of people
Yeah.
in town. So, but everybody's been super just loving and supportive and just really encouraging. So yeah, we do have conversations pretty much every time we go out, but we appreciate
Yeah,
that.
but we don't mind,
Right,
do we? Us mamas don't mind when people want to talk about the
right,
kids.
right, exactly.
One of the questions I love to ask the moms on my podcast is, what would you say that your kids got from their mama? And so I'm guessing there's a little bit of something in each of the three that they got from
Ah,
you.
this
You
is
want to start with
this is the
Taylor?
hardest question for me. It is because I feel like they got pretty much all of their music from their dad, all their
Yeah,
musical talents and abilities from their dad. I sing when people aren't listening, but not really on
me
stage.
too.
And I feel like they got a lot of that from him. We both have the kids grew up with a pretty good sense of humor because we both I feel like just love to laugh. So maybe it's hard for me to say specifically Taylor got this or that. I don't know how to answer that specifically. A lot of people think when they speak to me after they've been around Madison, they're like, "Oh my goodness, you guys are the same," because we both talk with our hands and have a lot of similar mannerisms. But I think that they because I was their mom, I was their teacher, then I was their youth pastor. I
Ah,
think they all got a lot from me of I was I really spent a lot of time in prayer, praying for them and sending prayers to them when they were in college, and I feel like they got maybe some of that from me. As far as the spiritual side of things, just that empathy and caring about people, and of course, I mean, I don't feel like I can take the credit because my husband and I both. It's like we opened our doors to a lot of people, and we had Bible studies in our home where there would be 60, 70 kids would come in, and so I feel like they
wow.
just got a lot of that from both of us. I was trying
Yeah. Are you still working in student ministry?
I am. I am.
Oh,
Yeah, I
wow.
love
That's
it. It is a
awesome.
passion of mine. It's interesting. I know that it has to be some sort of calling because I meet people all the time that just say I can't stand to be around teenagers. I don't know how anybody can stand to be around. And I'm like, "Oh, bring them all to me. I love them. I love spending time with them and hanging out with them." So, yeah. So that has been a big passion of mine. But I, I feel like I'm failing on this last question because I don't know. I should have texted the kids and said, "Okay, what did you get from me? Did you get anything
Yeah,
from
what do you
me?"
think? What do you think you got from me? So, no, I think it's quite obvious. I mean, obviously, they're just filled with joy, and you have such a positive spirit about you too. So, I'm sure that they got it from their
Oh,
mom.
thank you.
And it really is interesting because it's a little bit different than other families because you played those really key roles. You played all of those key roles.
Right.
you were their teacher, you were their mom, like you just said, and then also leading them in church as they were learning more about the
Right.
Lord. You played some key roles in them that I'm sure are part of fostering that
Yes.
close family that you guys are so blessed to
And I
have.
will say this too, like just a couple of days ago, they had a really stressful day, and it was kind of neat because the end of the day, it was nighttime. One by one, none of them knew they were doing this, but they each either FaceTimed or called us just just
Oh.
to say, "Oh, it was a rough day," and just to get some encouragement. And I'm like, they're grown with their own kids, but they still want mom and daddy to to give them a
Oh, I love that.
to
And I think that's the goal for all of us is to be that phone call,
yes,
when our kids just need an ear or just some comforting words. We may not have the answers, but we all want to offer, that little bit of comfort to
yes,
them. That's sweet.
absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. So what are you excited about most for the KLOVE Awards
oh
coming
my
up?
goodness.
Do you get nervous for them or are
Yes,
you just excited?
yes. I'm so excited, but I am a little bit nervous because I think that they do so great when they just banter back and forth with each other. And I think they're so hilarious. So I'm not sure how that's going to work because they may have to read like a teleprompter and it may have to be,
Yeah, like if they have a
yeah. So they
script,
may have,
they're better
yes.
unscripted, right?
So I'm curious to see. I'm not nervous. I think that they'll be a little bit nervous because it's a little bit out of their comfort zone as far as, like I said, with the script. But they
Yeah.
seem really excited and they have some neat ideas of
It's
things that they want to do. So hopefully they can pull that off. But it we're just we're just elated, so excited that they got asked to do this, and so thrilled. In fact, I don't know if you know this. I think it's out there. I think they posted about it, but they have a little docu series coming out called Raising Cain, and
Oh,
and
okay.
they've I don't know when it's coming out, maybe in the fall, but it's all about life on the bus with the kids. And I think you'll get to see the fun stuff and you'll get to see some of the not so fun, and how they work through things.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
um but I think they're going to do great. It's just going to be a thrill to sit back and see this new it's more than just music. It'll be
Right,
kind of like
right.
the next level. And I feel like they were made for this, so I feel like they'll do great. But we're
Oh, I
excited.
think they're going to be awesome. And I'm like you. I hope they don't give them too much script, maybe
I
direction,
know,
but let's let them be them,
I
right?
know. I hope so. And then we'll just say a little prayer that Madison will just edit as she goes.
It's so funny. Madison's the one you're one with no filter is the
Yes,
one you're worried
yes,
about. That's awesome.
in the best way.
She brings the life to the party though,
Yes.
so that's so awesome. Do you feel pressure in what you're gonna wear because you are the mother of Cain, who are the most
Oh
fashionable people that will
wow.
be on the red carpet?
I hadn't thought of
Not
that.
until I said it, right?
Right. Not till you said it.
Sorry about
I
that.
need to get on that. I need to think about that. Um, no, really. I mean, I'm sure I'll try to find something kind of special to wear, but honestly, I always just feel like let them shine.
Yeah,
Let them
absolutely,
shine. And
absolutely.
but no, it'll be a thrill to get to be there. And you got any suggestions? I need some ideas on what to do.
No, but have you been to the actual show before? Like just when they've been
Are you talking
there,
about?
the
Oh
K-Love
yes, the
Awards?
very first one when they won, we couldn't have been. We were just prepared. Like this is their first year, um,
Yeah,
and they were up against big names. And we were just like,
yeah.
guys, we love you. We're proud of you. You probably didn't win this, and that's okay. And they were like, exactly. They didn't have a speech written or anything. And when they called them on the stage, they were all just crying and their jaw dropped because,
Yep.
but it's a blast to be there. I don't know if you've ever been.
Yeah, I was gonna say it. Yeah, I have. Yeah, and I'll be there. I'll be on the red carpet, so I will look for you, and we can meet
Oh,
in
yay.
person, which will be
Okay.
way more fun,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's what I was gonna say. It's just a lot of fun. It's kind of laid back, and it just feels like a little bit of a
Yes.
party. And what's so neat about these type of events for the artists is that a lot of people may realize artists don't ever really get unless you're on tour together. You don't get to just hang out and see each
Right.
other. So it's so fun for all of the artists and the
Yes.
families just to get to see and talk about life a little bit
Right.
because they miss out on that because they're all on the
Yes.
road.
And I think the babies may be there. I'm not sure how this is all going to play out. I don't know if there's going to be
Yeah.
I don't know if there's going to be some on the red carpet for a minute or not, or so
Well, they might
maybe.
have to at least make an appearance in the
Yeah.
show since they're all so close in age.
That'd be
So,
great.
what a special time for you! What's your grandma name?
Well, we're working on that. So my husband is Papa, and I decided that I wanted to be something different and unique. So it kind of just happened one day. My husband calls me Sweetie all the time. So I said, that's it. Just, I'm going to be Sweetie. But then, which River is the oldest, and she's just starting to talk, but she's not quite saying, a lot yet.
Yeah,
And I have
yeah.
decided that I might have made a terrible mistake because if she's, I
Uh-oh.
mean, I don't know how SW is going to work out for her. And I'm like, if it ends up being Papa and PP, I'm just going to be so, I'm going to regret this so much. So who knows? We're waiting to see what River makes of Sweetie or if she just makes up her own word. The Logan said, Mom, she's saying a lot of B words. You might ought to rethink this. And so I was like, I don't know. So as of right now, I'm
Oh my
Sweetie,
goodness.
but we'll see.
Okay, but it remains to be seen.
Yes.
Okay, we may have to check
Yeah.
back then once River's really
Yes.
talking and see where she
Right.
lands on the
Right.
grand. But that's the honor of being the first grandchild is you get to
Yes.
pick that
Yes.
name. So
So,
that's awesome. Well, I have loved talking to
oh, thank
you, and I'm
you.
just so excited for your family and just I know how with one child in the spotlight in the music industry, what a special thing it is to get to watch him shine and people react to his music and his lyrics and what he's writing and what he's doing. So if you take that and multiply it times 3, I
Yeah.
can't even
It's
imagine. So
amazing. It really is
congratulations.
amazing. And
Yeah.
you're probably on a time crunch, but I want to hear
No, I'm good.
you and your son.
Oh, well, you're so sweet. Well, we'll tell you what, we'll end the
Okay.
podcast and then we'll just keep talking.
Okay.
How's
Okay.
that?
That sounds great.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on. Stay right there. I'm just going to stop.